Start us off, me, once again.
Woo!
What's going on, brother? I think we
Hell
did that. I
yeah!
think we did that last week. Feels like a
Shit!
copycat. Anyway, welcome to the less coordinated opening intro to Kevin Talks Wrestling. Kevin explains Mania. Uh,
You act like I put more than 5 minutes in thought into any of those.
yeah, so the bits that Carter does to open Kevin and Carter Talk Football 2023. Check out the entire season, plus or minus a few lost episodes.
Ah,
Um, Carter starts off with hot bits, and I know he doesn't put like a crazy amount of thought into it. Like he doesn't think about it until we're like just starting off, or at least chatting beforehand. But the commitment, he's got enough of a little idea that he commits to it, and I just have like 0.5% of an idea, and then I send it and don't know what happens.
yeah, that's fair. I mean, it really is 90% commitment. As long as you're angry or focused or jovial enough, anything can work.
Or Santa Claus breaks it.
Yeah. Or my war against winter continues.
Also true. But anyway, welcome back to Kevin Explains Mania. Kevin Talks Wrestling. I'm here with Carter today. Um,
Hello.
through the rumor mills, people might be stopping in or out. Who knows? I don't. Uh, they sometimes don't tell me. So, and it's a
Right.
very open forum.
I like it because it means we might have surprise cameos.
Yes, like that one time Tom showed up and was just like, "Wrestling's fake, man," and then left. It's like
Oh, I was
that
so
was a
mad.
call.
I should have shown you. I was on Expedia. I was booking the tickets to get there, and you know, holier saints talked me down from my satanic ledge.
Um. Anyway, because I can't compete with the wordsmithing that was. Building a fine katana of words. That's it's a sad attempt, but I try to compete. So this week we are
You,
talking about this upcoming pay per view, which is I'm gonna release this a day earlier than normal because the pay per view is the or premium live event is the Elimination Chamber one, and it is being held in Perth, Australia. So that is coming on at 5 a.m. Eastern time. So
oh, gee, and you're waking up for
I'm
that?
gonna wake up for that.
Give you credit. I can barely get up to make a train.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna. I get up at 6 pretty much every day already, so I'm very confident in my abilities. Uh,
Yes, but fun location for it.
hmm yeah, they've started being a lot more worldwide. Recently
Hmm.
they had the Clash at the Castle in Wales last, not last year, 2022, I believe.
Hmm.
A little jealous about because my mom and sister were in Wales, like or in England, so like a stone's throw away from there when that was happening, but they didn't just they decided not to go, and I'm like, what are you guys insane?
Right, right.
Um, as well as they've had events recently. I mean, there's been the Saudi Arabia events for quite some time, but that's also a multi-billion-dollar deal and kind of stuff like that.
Right.
But for the and they'll go on tour, but the premium live events have typically stayed almost exclusively in America. Once in a while, you might get a Canadian one or like something
Yeah, it
minor in
counts. We'll get
England.
them eventually.
But this last year after Clash of the Castle, it has been nothing but like there's been a hot streak of just all over the world. The pay per view after WrestleMania Backlash last year was held in San Juan, Puerto Rico, where
Really?
Bad Bunny put on a freaking clinic.
Oh yeah, you mentioned this last time.
Yeah. And then next, they're in Australia, and then they're gonna be in
Hmm.
Philly for Mania, and then they're going the next one for like the Backlash, the consequences of the pay per view is going to be in France, and they have another exclusive one being held in Germany too. So they're getting a lot more worldwide with it, which is kind
I
of delightful.
I guess I am curious because we talked about like because on our other show we talk about like the NFL's presence internationally.
Yeah.
Like, does excuse me, does wrestling have a particularly profound presence right now? Like, do you have a sense? Like, if you were to go on Reddit, on the
Hmm.
WWE Reddit, would you have German or French fans like
Yeah. Yeah.
bloviating in there, for lack of a better word?
So the specifically WWE Reddit isn't super popular, but there is a real popular pro wrestling one called Squared Circle, because that's what they always refer to the ring as. They refer to it as the Squared Circle,
Interesting.
and it goes
Why?
through because it's a ring, but it's a square. I don't know. That's the
Oh,
best I
okay,
got.
that's kind of funny. I like that's actually kind of clever. I like that.
But they do a lot of things like for all the wrestling promotions, or at least all the big ones and some of the smaller ones. So you'll see a lot of updates from things happening in Mexico. They stick to WWE, AEW, TNA, like the American ones, the most because that's where primarily most of the fans that are on Reddit go. But
Hmm.
there's a lot of English things. There's a lot of Japan too that are represented.
See, I believe that. Yeah, that tracks.
But wrestling has such just like a world. It's one of those like I guess the best way to describe it is like performance fighting has had such a worldwide like showmanship and like you know how Hulk Hogan was like the household name of professional wrestling in the 80s pretty much and early 90s.
Yeah, yeah,
You're
yeah.
not talk if you're talking about professional wrestling, you got to be talking about Hogan too.
Mm,
Um yeah, on a worldwide level, that was Andre the Giant where
that makes 100% sense. Andre
yeah,
the Giant was not American,
he was
right?
French. Yes, from France.
French. I would
Yeah,
not have guessed. Yeah, okay, I can
I
kind
mean
of see it
it's
now.
Andre. But
Well, okay, but you can name anyone anything. That could have been a
fair,
stage name for all I know.
true, fair. Hulk Hogan is his stage name, but like he was big in the
Like, just
U.S.
because he uses it in fucking Princess Bride doesn't mean that's a real biblical God given name. Like, God
Fair.
given, child, mother given name.
Yeah, his government name. But he was one of the hottest stars in the world. Some would argue, like even outside of just the professional wrestling fans, he was probably one of like those like top 10 most famous athletes worldwide.
Right.
Like everybody knows who like Messi is or Pele. It was like everybody knew who Andre the Giant was. It also didn't
Yeah.
help when he did his stints in Japan and other parts of the world where the average height is shorter and he stuck out even more.
Right. I just remember one of my biggest experiences with wrestling outside of the one WrestleMania game that had all of like the throwback characters
Hmm.
was a Rolling Stone article. It's mostly about Hulk. Just kind of talking about like this was before the Gawker thing when people still kind of liked
Uh,
him.
yeah.
Um, yeah, they talking about like the consequences of all this wrestling, like the toll it took on his body, and also there was just an innocuous, like a random story about Andre not being able to use the toilets in Japan,
Yep. Yeah, Andre was like that.
and I'll leave it at that. You can figure
Um,
out how he dealt with that crisis on your own.
yeah, you really can. Um, so let's talk about what happened in this last week's couple weeks of wrestling, because we had a little bit of 2 weeks to make things work because somebody did the math wrong on the calendar,
That's fine.
and it was me.
I
But
figure
no,
you added a grace week.
nope, I just counted wrong. Um, so this past week, one of the hottest events happened, or the past 2 weeks, was the pre WrestleMania press conference. So the
Yes.
Thursday before um, the Super Bowl, which was held in Vegas. In Vegas, WWE held a press conference that was about like WrestleMania. Let's get this kickoff going with like a solid amount. And what a time that was. It starts off with Triple H. He comes out, he does his thing of like introducing things, talking about things. They have like a pre-panel, pre-panel show, like the
Hmm.
sideline reporters how they're talking at their
Hmm.
desk near the field. They had that going on.
Yes. Really? Huh.
Yeah. And then it was who was it? Michael Cole. I think it was Wade Barrett, CM Punk, and Big E. So fun crew. Um, there was two. I'm gonna focus only on two highlights for time because I could talk about an hour-long press conference for 2 hours. Um, is when women's champion Rhea Ripley showed up, who
Hmm.
is one of the hottest stars in the industry right now. She has the respect of her elders, all the higher ups like her, the previous former wrestlers like her. She's looked up to. She's somebody that did did not get like a softball to being in the position that she was in. She worked her way up through the Australian indie scene and worked her ass off for years in like developmental rosters and is getting that star power treatment that she rightfully deserves according to like everybody now.
Right.
She comes out, has her moment, and then is interrupted by Becky Lynch.
Oh shoot! I know her.
Yeah, one of the other crowd favorites for women's wrestlers.
Hmm.
And they talk about the Elimination Chamber because whoever wins the Elimination Chamber is going to fight for Rhea Ripley's title on
Hmm.
WrestleMania. Um, and Rhea Ripley herself, if she wins at the Elimination Chamber. But Becky comes out, starts talking, and is like, and hinting that it could be the two of them at Mania, which is like, okay, interest
So,
captured.
so it'd be a three-way fight.
No, well, this is Becky was saying how she was gonna win the Elimination Chamber
Oh, okay.
to face Rhea
Oh,
Ripley.
yeah. Right, right. Sorry, I'm
No,
picking up on the logic here. Okay.
yeah, and that's gonna be That would be a great match because they're both good at wrestling. Like I feel like there is three factors to every wrestler. Is
Hmm.
that you're good at you're good at the physical aspect, you're good at the charisma aspect, and you're good at the like ring psychology aspect, which
Right.
kind of is a combination of the both, but whatever. So it's like a master of this is Randy Orton, where he is incredibly talented even after wrestling for 22 years now.
Hmm.
And charisma, he's not the most charismatic person, but when he's in character, especially when he was a bad guy, the dude would be menacing. He would
Right.
not
Right.
break. He would capture, like, hold the crowd in. And then when he did something like kicking Stephanie McMahon in the face, like he straight up punted
Jesus.
her like Pat McAfee would. Um, it was obviously all scripted, but it's just like that
Right.
was,
I'd hope.
yeah, that was also almost like 15 years ago, which makes me feel bad about myself that I still distinctly remember watching this. And
Oh, it's all right. I remember a Buffalo Bills game from when I was 11 where even though all they had to do to run the ball was run the ball to beat the Jets, they do a rollout bootleg with JP Losman. He gets sacked, fumbles, and some motherfucker picks up the ball and runs it into the end zone. And my dad, just obsessed, goes when they cut to Dick Drawn, "You deserve to be fired." And I'm like, that's the angriest I've ever gotten. And I'm like, man, you survived 4 Super Bowls, and this stupid little game that
yeah,
probably wouldn't have even gotten us into the playoffs is causing you to have a conniption right now.
yeah, that's how it be
Respect.
sometimes with sports.
Oh, yeah, it do be emphatically.
But yeah, he has that, and when you watch him wrestle, it looks like he doesn't waste a single step. Just like the Undertaker, he holds the crowd in with charisma. but when you're watching him like in between the punches and stuff, making them look good, he looks deliberate, and it's all like everything is what he's doing is intended. So both
Mhm.
Rhea and Becky have like high stats in all those categories, and they both have huge fan like the fans love both of them. The backstage loves both of them, and it could be one of the hottest like matches on the card if it happens.
Right. I
It,
guess that's. I hate to interrupt the story again, but I guess that's like one of my questions in terms of like perspective, because like I've talked a little bit. I don't think I've talked about it here, but I've talked about it other places, like talking about like the WNBA trying to get more
yeah.
prominence in respect to the NBA and how women's college has kind of surpassed men's college because men's college has become such a like
Oh yeah.
factory for the NBA where it's like one and done, or you don't even go to college, you just go to the like the developmental
Yeah.
league. I guess I'm curious, like in terms of where it is now, how would you frame sort of the women's wrestling game versus the men's? Do they? I suppose they're not
Yeah.
equal, obviously, but like are they getting closer? I
They
mean, you've talked
yeah.
about like you've talked about how like this post McMahon
Yeah.
era has definitely tried to push the women's more. How does it feel from the fan perspective? I suppose.
It it feels a lot more genuine. So like we talked about it in the last couple of weeks that like 2018 was the biggest year for women's wrestling pretty much. Well, one of the biggest years. It was clearly the it was given the women the opportunity that all the opportunities that the men had at that point, and like the full death of the diva era, which was like your early 2000s to late. I mean, it kind of died in the early 2010s, but they didn't really fully usher in this new era until like mid to late 2010s. Of it went from just like, and there was like legitimate women wrestlers beforehand, like in the 90s and stuff, but that was
Hmm.
at a time where women weren't really respected as much as we
Right.
are learning more and more every day with the Vince McMahon thing. And then
I mean, I did watch Glow. I did watch the first season of Glow, and it very did it. The very first season was very much like, "Hey, let's get some ladies in short pants and show off their bazongas."
pretty much, and that was the early 2000s to early 2010s, where it was just, it wasn't about talent. It was either you pretty face or you are not going to show up. You're going to be
Ouch.
in possibly stupid gimmicks, really thrown to the wolves, and you had some people like Michelle McCool and Mickey James and Trish Stratus who were all legitimately good wrestlers, but they were put in like either high school style like gimmicks as their thing. Like Michelle was like the gave off like high school bully scenario. Trish was forced to do like a lot of humiliating things for like TV time and stuff, and that's not including people like Tori Wilson and Stacy Keebler who were also like just thrown into like really uncomfortable positions. And then now we're at this point where everything seems to be going a lot more smoothly, and
Mm.
women are being hired for talent. If they look good while they are talented, cool. But it seems to be a lot more talent based. And the fan backing is going very strong with it too.
Right. Like the fans are welcoming this. They're not
Yes, there's
like getting huffy about it.
no after because there was like the late 20 like I would say probably 2007 to 2016. They would just cut women's like matches for time. There would be
Mm.
like entire pay-per-views that would just be like they hyped up a match and they just didn't show it. They were lucky to get 10-minute matches
Mm.
between all the women's matches that they showed for an entire like 4 or 5 hour pay-per-view.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn.
And then things things have started to change. They're given more time, and then kind of one of the biggest catalysts to it all was Ronda Rousey joining, and she's big enough at-home name star where WrestleMania 35, it is her, Charlotte Flair, and Becky Lynch all main eventing, and that was a really long show where it was like the fans were kind of dead for it because they were beat.
Right. I can only imagine the amount of energy it takes to survive a WrestleMania. Only our dear Kevin can handle that. I would die.
I'm thrilled. I will.
I would make sure my last will like I would make sure I have it on paper what Sydney gets versus what you guys get.
Oh yeah, it's gonna. I'm gonna die while I'm there and have a great time. Um,
Yeah, totally worth it.
yeah, and then the big title picture part of the press conference.
Right, which is a drama. I did listen
And
to Rock talking about it after.
yeah,
He did an interview with ESPN where it talked about a lot of things, partially Moana too, but also just the controversy around
what's
his,
happening?
him kind of sliding into the WrestleMania
Yeah.
scene.
So what happened first was Cody won the Royal Rumble, and then on SmackDown, the following SmackDown afterwards, Cody looks like he's about to challenge Roman Reigns, and then he's like, I talked to somebody who knows you real well, and then The Rock shows up, and everyone's excited for The Rock. People love The
Mm.
Rock. But then it looks like The Rock is challenging Roman, which he never outright says anything, but they make it very clear with body language.
Mm.
And then the hatred for The Rock started again. People, the following Monday, people are chanting Rocky sucks. People are booing anytime he gets
Really?
mentioned. Oh, yeah. It
God,
was
how the mighty fall sometimes.
because they spent the better part of this year, or the last year, building up this Cody gotta finish the story. And
That is a good
it looks like The
catchphrase.
Rock stole it all, which is like, alright, crazy. And then the fans were like, if you're gonna give us a title match for the longest reigning in the modern era, um, like champions who's held the title for like 3 years, give us to somebody that is a full timer. Don't go give them a part timer match for the biggest pay per view or somebody that's just in
Mm.
as like a guest wrestler. Pretty much, give us one of the people we like. And
Right.
then at the at the event, it starts off with I believe Roman Reigns coming out first, and oh no, it starts with Cody. Sorry, I'm trying to. It's been a minute, so I gotta get my eggs in
Oh
a
no, you're
row
fine.
and all my ducks together. And it's like, oh no, sorry, it starts with Roman. I was right the first time, and Roman Reigns. No, I'm sorry, I'm getting so confused by my notes. So Cody comes out. Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins are on stage already. They had a little bit of banter, and the Roman Reigns is like, "Listen, Cody, listen, pal. I I respect you, but like you had your chance last year. I'm facing The Rock." Immediate
Mm.
boos from a relatively small crowd. It wasn't a huge event,
Mm. Right, it was
but
like a press
it was
conference.
like a press conference, but it also had like stadium style seating for like
Right.
all the fans, and
Oh, so it's like this. It's like one of the. It's like the Super Bowl press week where it gets
pretty
a little
much,
silly.
yeah, pretty
Yeah,
much.
I can picture that. Okay.
And the then The Rock comes out and people are booing the shit out of The Rock, and I can't tell if this was where a pivot happened or what. Like the over the past week, there was a pivot because they realized how much hate The Rock was going to get, or it was planned from the start. Either way, it's making for a good story. And The Rock comes out and he shows the whole bloodline family tree. So Roman Reigns was formerly clearly in charge of the bloodline. Now it's less clear. He was the tribal chief, and he is like it shows the whole family tree, everyone involved, including those who wrestle at other promotions and who have passed on, even on like not great terms with the WWE when they passed.
Right.
And it
Which
shows,
seems like a lot more people than there should be, but
yeah,
that's the unfortunate nature
it
of professional
happens,
sports.
yeah. But it shows like the amount, and it shows what was really cool about it. Besides the fact it showed like where Roman's grandfather, I believe, yeah, Roman's grandfather and The Rock's grandfather kind of were blood brothers, and it shows where that family connects in, and it shows like The Rock's daughter, her it showed her actual name as what even in parentheses her ring name. It showed
Mhm.
everyone's ring names too of people that you might not realize that were connected. Um, and people were like it was a really cool graphic, and Cody comes over and cuts like a hard cut of like calling Roman out. It's like, oh man, if your grandfather, and then he calls out The Rock's grandfather, High Chief Peter Maivia, and he goes, and if you're like, if the High Chief saw this, he would be disappointed in you too. And people are like, oh snap, he went there, and that's where the story turns.
Hmm.
Instead of Roman defending himself, The Rock, all silent, walks up to Cody, all like 300 pounds of steroids, looks at him. And The Rock's in a tank top muscle shirt. Cody's in a suit.
Right. Rock's not in his he's not in his beefcake mode now. He's a little
No.
slimmed.
Yeah. And he's looking down Cody, and he has like this break in his voice, and he's like, pretty much pulled the "you keep my family's name out of your mouth." And by this point, like all the on TV general managers and Triple H are back on stage, and like kind of like clearly were hinting something was going to happen. But the fact that it came from The Rock was the surprising part. And then he just slaps Cody across the face, and it was like a big slap. And obviously, the dramatic behind it happens, and that's when the censors went nuts. You hear
Those
all
poor,
sorts
poor
of
heroes of the industry.
yeah, you hear all these like shout like you see a lot of shouting. The fans are going nuts, and even Seth Rollins, who is still on stage, is screaming at The Rock because it almost felt like that was the start of WWE's
Hmm.
Civil War. Because
Oh man.
Seth, being a good guy champion, while he doesn't like he's injured, kind of not injured enough to drop the title, but he's like
Hmm.
he was always a fighting champion,
Oh, that's
never won
interesting.
through.
So if someone's too hurt to compete in WrestleMania, do they just have to like
Yeah,
basically? Oh,
withdraw
I'm sure.
their match, which is
Yeah,
what happened against.
they abdicate the throne. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
it happened against CM Punk at the Royal Rumble. He tore something. He pulled
Hmm.
Aaron Rodgers,
Oh,
and he
don't
um
compare him to that man.
yeah, and he had like he was gonna get given a premium spot at WrestleMania this year, and obviously he can't compete.
Mhm.
But Seth Rollins was like clearly without a person to go against, especially with this pivot to Cody and um Cody versus Roman. And after the slap, you see Seth like Cody gets like escorted out by management and stuff, like who looks like he's ready to fight back. And then Seth is also being escorted out, and he's screaming, and you catch him catching like you can't do this shit. You can't like just because you're on the like you're chairman of the board, you can't like censor. Pretty much saying you can't fucking do this, which for a like easy to witness moment, fantastic. That was great storytelling and something that never really happened too much outside of the in the
Mm.
Vince McMahon era is while they would like especially after the 90s and stuff is they never really got too into like blaming management and stuff and like or corporate stuff. Never it was never really high like priority. And then Seth Rollins just clearly outright calls it, which was sick. And then the after interview where Triple H is being interviewed, and The Rock comes up to just basically censors, and he basically, like, one of the censored things, because they didn't censor it for the crowd at home or the crowd in house, was he said that one of the things he said was like, I'm gonna slap his fucking teeth in. And he told Triple H, he's like,
Jesus Christ.
you better fucking fix this, you better fix this, like, situation. And then Triple H comes out and just the following SmackDown, which was the following day, and he just goes, after the events of the press conference, I came out here to tell you that at WrestleMania in Philadelphia, it will be Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns. So it's like the fans are like, "Ah, Triple H, our guy," like clapping along basically. And it has gotten hot. That feud is very hot right now. At last week's Monday Night Raw, it was Cody Rhodes versus Drew McIntyre, because Drew's doing this like respectful villain like position where he wants to fight people that wronged him more, and he was fighting Cody to be like, because he was like, Cody, he's been encouraging Cody to fight Roman the entire time so he can fight Seth. And Roman Reigns' younger cousins, Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa, come out during Cody versus Drew this last Monday Night Raw, and jump him again, and you see Drew look at him and still get the pin and then go away from it. So that is hot right now.
So WrestleMania is going to be a powder keg, is what you're
Oh,
saying.
as of right now, the way they're planning everything, absolutely. Um, Another thing for the last couple weeks is Brock who? Brock Lesnar's history is pretty much getting slowly erased from the WWE. He was pulled off the cover off the
I
newest
heard the same
video
now.
game. He's no longer promoted at all. It is seeming like he is done. And it was clear that, like, for a while, one of the main reasons he was there is because Vince loved him, pay him
Hmm.
boatloads of money. And now it's just like a, kind of situation. Because it's like
Right.
that he's like hard out. And it's just like, does that mean he was with Vince on the whole trafficking thing? And
Probably. Well, look, I'm not going to make
yeah,
horrific
I don't want to make
accusations
any
against any
accusations,
individual, but
but with how badly he got caught out, is either he was such a Vince McMahon guy that he immediately stopped and was like, "All right, I'm done," or his name is way too common in the possible allegations.
right.
Uh,
If anything, it does feel like the WWE. 'Cause I have found a little bit of this. I have looked it up just so I have some kind of pretext for it. It really does feel like they're just hedging their bets. Where it's like, look, if he's completely exonerated, we can. It's easier to rebuild a bridge than be on a bridge that's going to collapse.
yeah, but that's kind of interesting because a couple months ago the rumor mill was it was going to be Brock Lesnar versus Gunther for the Intercontinental title. Now that is kind of up in, I mean, that's obviously up in the air now, but it's going to be who faces him. And people are hoping it's Chad Gable, who's a stereotypical short guy, like small technical wrestler, but he's put on some banger matches, especially against Gunther. So people are hopeful. They're not promoting that lineup too much because of the Elimination Chamber pay per view. They want to see what happens there first. Um, but there's some pretty solid names that are being thrown around from what I know. Another thing that happened, so you'll remember the two brothers, Jimmy and Jay Uso, started off the Royal Rumble.
Right. I like those guys. They seem
Yeah.
cool.
Jimmy Uso interrupting Cody's match at the beginning of Raw led to him interrupting Jay's match, where he was fighting Gunther for the Intercontinental title, which I knew he wasn't going to win because um, there's no way that Gunther is having this dominant of a reign and he's not going to lose. If he loses, it's not going to be at a Monday Night Raw. It's going to be at a pay per view, guaranteed.
Hmm.
And Jimmy clearly had the pin, and there was like a 2 count, and then the ring bell starts going off, and people are like, "What's going on?" They jump the gun, and the fans are a little confused. And then they show it's Jimmy Uso ringing the bell himself, like getting real obnoxious with it, clearly playing it off, and interrupting Jay win a title. And then Gunther took advantage basically and retained. And here's where the dichotomy of villains was. When Drew saw Cody got interrupted and jumped him, he kind of was smiling because it went in his favor. Gunther looked disappointed. He didn't have his hand held up high in the middle of the ring. He didn't ask for it. He wasn't like that. He got out of the ring and kind of like slowly walked away, like with his title, which is like because he's always been known to be a fighting champion. So it's like,
Right.
what's happening here? But it seems like they are building Jimmy versus Jay for WrestleMania, which is awesome.
Ooh.
They've been a tag team for the better part of a decade. They're both very talented guys. Actually, they've been tag team their entire careers, not even just on the main roster. Um,
Hmm.
but they're two talented individuals, so that's going to be fun to see what happens and if there's any crazy like steel cage or something stipulations.
Right.
Another hot rivalry is for the Elimination Chamber match, or not the match, the pay per view is Rhea Ripley versus Nia Jax. Nia Jax has been giving off this dominant like divas or women's like competitor vibes. She's jumped Rhea Ripley a couple times, and Rhea Ripley has kind of gotten comeuppance a couple times, but Nia sneaks out of it relatively unscathed. Nia looks super dominant. Rhea Ripley was like the top competitor for a while, and now it's like it looks like she's waned a little bit, but in a good way. It looks like it's not going to be an easy match for her, which is nice. And then for the Elimination Chamber qualifier matches, and then we'll get into the actual Elimination Chamber pay per view of what it is. So there's the women's match and the men's match. So the men's match facing for Seth Rollins' title is Kevin Owens, Bobby Lashley, Randy Orton, Drew McIntyre, Logan Paul, and L.A. Knight. Solid
LA
group
Knight.
of, like, for a while, the Elimination Chamber matches would have, like, person A or B probably going to get it. Person C and D, because there are 6 people in these matches, but in person C and D would be, like, the people that it's like, it'd be interesting to see them get it. And person E and F, which were just fodder. But
Hmm.
these are not. These are all A and B names. Like every one of them has either had a history as a champion, a dominant performance, and Logan Paul. Where odds are the winner is going to be Drew McIntyre. But if LA Knight pulls off this win, no one's going to be mad. And
So
then
that's like the fan favorite.
LA Knight is one of the biggest fan favorites. He gives off older like 90s wrestling vibes about him,
Ooh,
which is awesome.
I dig it.
And then
Meanwhile, Logan Paul's only thing going for him is he officially surpassed Gatorade as the most sold sports drink. And as many people have pointed out, I've not seen a single motherfucker actually drink that.
no. I will say that
Truly, it's
that's
all
kind of an
tweens who
impressive
just
stat.
want the bottle.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it is kind of impressive through sheer brand management
Yeah.
that you can have tweens buying your thing as a status symbol. I mean, it's sad because it's like, yeah, our children are impressionable and don't have role models anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But also, you know what? We don't need to litigate this. We're already an hour in,
Yeah.
and I've had a beer.
Yeah. Also, before I forget again, one of the hottest things about Villain Rock that has now clearly shown up, and he's clearly being a
Which is funny because
Roman
my
guy.
understanding is people didn't like him as a heel. They liked him as like the cool guy.
They didn't. I mean, they liked him as a heel. They booed him and reacted appropriately, but then they tried it like after they, because he started off like his first major character was a heel, pretty much, and Then they made him a good guy, and everyone loved him as a good guy. And then they kind of tried him as a heel again,
Hmm.
and it didn't really work out well. But now he is doing the heel thing again. When the fans are starting to say his catchphrases, he goes, "No, no, you do not talk when The Rock's talking," and pulls like that kind of stuff. He's wearing
Because he's
like,
gone Hollywood. I
yeah,
like this. Okay,
and
I'm in.
his original villain like heel run, he would wear these like elaborate looking shirts and be like, "This is a $500 shirt. The Rock is wealthy beyond belief, so he can afford this, as opposed to you commoners." And then that's what he would say in like the '90s. Flash forward 30 years, and he has like a tank top version of one of like the more distinct looking shirts. Like, and he's walking around talking with sunglasses inside. Like, he's got the same style sunglasses. So he's clearly
Mhm.
giving off the aura of '90s villain Rock, and it's awesome.
Oh, okay. I see what they're cooking here. And while the fans probably overreacted, well, no, that's an understatement. They
Yeah,
definitely overreacted when they're sending death threats to his kid.
yeah,
But I'm liking what they're cooking in terms of
oh
like
yeah.
letting Rock play a role right now.
No,
I feel like because I can speak from a movie angle. Kind of like what's hurt the Rock the last few years is after he kind of blew up as a movie star, it became less like him taking on roles and more
yeah,
him controlling the show. Like
yes.
it became less
It was
like
not.
honestly, it's funny because Moana was like the last like role he
Yeah,
did.
every other thing has been basically The Rock starring in this.
Yeah,
The
where
Rock.
he's like the creative lead effectively. That was like the big thing with the Fast and Furious franchise, why he kind of got bumped to a spinoff because it's like him and Vin Diesel couldn't get along.
Yeah,
And he's like, all right, I'm just going to go make my side franchise where
yeah.
I control things.
One of the
And
one of the funniest bits is people keep saying that Vin Diesel's gonna show up on Cody's side if The Rock tries to jump.
that'd be really fucking funny. If the WWE was cool, they would definitely
Oh yeah.
do that. That's my call out for the WWE to
Hmm.
figure out the logistics of getting him there in time. But yeah, no, and like the discourse on The Rock now, because he signed a deal with A24, the artisanal movie studio.
Yeah.
The big thing is just like, yeah, he needs to get back to sort of tourist directors who will like shape him.
Yeah.
Let him be an actual Rock that you can chisel into things.
Yeah.
Like, or just do Michael Bay shit again because he knew how to use you.
Yeah. No, but
But I like that. I like
it's
that he's like taking on a specific role
oh yeah.
here.
Maybe that'll be some of our post conversation to like video homework of just watching some of The Rock as villain Rock again because he's pulling it off great.
Mm.
And because it's against Cody, who's now like the top, one of the top good guys of the company, everyone he's getting the hatred he needs, um, which is nice. So the other Elimination Chamber match is the women's match, which is starring returning Raquel Rodriguez, taller girl, kind of a crowd favorite. Um, she returned and won the kind of the last chance over the top rope battle royale, which was a surprisingly good women's over the like battle royal because they love throwing those around a lot, but this one made sense in a storyline. This one had like a lot of big names and big moments, and it didn't seem like in the past they've had women's battle royals and like multi like 10-person matchups to make them. It seems like satiated with how much TV time they're getting, but this time felt
Mm.
like there was actually like appropriately planned. It made sense in terms of last second chance to get a qualifier for this title, this for number one contender title match.
Mm.
It's like decent names plus some other ones, and everyone had a solid moment to shine. It was, it was, it made sense. It did not feel like they were just satiating their demands to be on TV more. It felt like it had purpose. Um,
Right.
After Raquel Rodriguez, there was Naomi returning from TNA at the Royal Rumble. Liv Morgan
Hmm.
also returned to the Royal Rumble. Becky Lynch, obviously.
Hmm.
Bianca Belair, who is also one of the most dominant women's performers out there. And then recent developmental roster call up, Tiffany Stratton. She was the hottest thing there, held the title for a while, has this kind of like princess esque vibes about her, like heiress princess, not royal princess. So
Okay, I can get behind that.
she's like the only one that's like slightly odd man out. Everyone else can make a solid reason to face Rhea Ripley. You got Raquel and Bianca as of like the most dominant superstars, like women's superstar vibes versus Rhea, one of the most dominant. You got Becky Lynch, who's one of the top women faces. You got Naomi, who has a returning vibe and was a good wrestler the last time she was in, so that makes sense. And then Liv Morgan has a very interesting history with Rhea Ripley, where she would they were tag team champions at one point together, like in 2022 before Rhea Ripley joined the Judgment Day. And then Royal Rumble 2023, they both went bell to bell. They were 1 and 2 and they were the 29th and winner person eliminated. So they have like a secretly long history together of betrayal and stuff, which is kind of nice. Because it normally it would feel like that, like Tiffany Stratton and Liv Morgan were just kind of thrown in there, but they're making Tiffany Stratton to be like the new hottest thing, one of the new hotter talents, and then Liv Morgan has a decent sized following, kind of a crowd favorite, and just built like they've built a secretly long rivalry and have like a long term storytelling aspect. So I'm assuming it's going to be either Becky Lynch or Bianca Belair or someone like that. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sold on any, like I have theories of who the winners of each of these matches could be, like from most to least, but no one in my opinion is out of it. Like
Right.
10 years ago, you'd see a match and be like, "All right, you and you definitely aren't making it. Guaranteed." But now it's just like huh, it's probably going to be this person, but we can't rule out this reason for anyone. So that's going to be a lot of fun, both of those matches. And then there's a tag team match for the tag team championships, which is going to be kind of cool because it's Finn Balor and Damon Priest versus, oh god, Pete Dunne, formerly known as Butch, who is also formerly known as Pete Dunne. He went through like multiple name changes and is back to his original like style of being like one of those like real grimy, like gritty British wrestlers. And then his partner, whose name I have trouble pronouncing, and it's not even that hard of a pronunciation. Um, but yeah, they're fighting for the tag titles. That's gonna be kind of a fun match because that's built like the Judgment Day have been the top bad guys like group. They've held the titles for a while, so something can easily come from it. And
I was going
then
to say we are. It does seem like a hero moment.
yeah, it's gonna be
We
kind
need
of
to be uplifted.
it might be a hero moment for them, but it is going to be a uh, it is going to be for the challengers a you deserve this moment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I do love. Like I meant to bring up this point earlier, but I didn't want like your flow. I do love this idea of like the good belt versus the bad. Like I
Tyler Bate.
like
Sorry,
that
I gotta.
because right.
Sorry, I just remembered his name is Tyler Bate.
Noted. I love that because we have we have heels and we have heroes. I love that we effectively have created a monarchy where it's like, oh, the good king who saw us through times of
Mm-hmm.
prosperity and wealth, and the bad king, like going
Yeah,
from like the Sun King to his,
the
Louis the
Moon King.
15th, yeah, or the Moon King. That's not, I mean, it wasn't what he was called.
I
He
know.
mostly just gets known as the guy who got his head cut. But yeah, that energy of like, oh, if only we were back to this game. Or like when Bloody Mary finally passed away and then Elizabeth takes over and almost immediately everyone's like, oh, the good days are here.
Yeah.
The good queen.
Yeah, there's always like there's some standards to every side, but there's also now a lot of gray, which is awesome because back in the 80s and 90s, it was good guy, bad guy, no in between.
Mm,
And then early 2000s, it was like in late 2010s, it kept that motif a lot,
mm.
but would throw in some random ass things throughout there because it felt like the WWE was trying too much. And now it's
Yeah.
like all like a lot of these guys are all good guys, but then you also see like Rhea Ripley, technically a bad guy if you look at like which side she would be on. But every time she goes anywhere, she is cheered and adored because everyone respects her effort and her character work. And she's not like the scummy heel. She's not the like sneaking her way out of things heel, and people respect the shit out of that. And obviously
Mm.
it's like all character stuff, but she does so much good work that she can punch Becky Lynch in the face and people are still cheering. And
Right.
Becky's like the top women's like good guy. So
Right.
let's actually talk about the Elimination Chamber itself. So it's another type of steel cage, but this one was built in like the early like 2002, and it was right after the WWE WCW rivalry ended, and it was one of those things that it seemed like they needed to like not reinvent the wheel, but have a new something hot match.
Mm.
So it is a 6-man elimination style match. So 2 men start in the middle of the ring, and then there are pods, like
Mm.
their own little clear rooms in the cage for the other 4 wrestlers.
Right.
And you have to be the last one standing. If you get pinned or submit, you're you're out. You're effectively shown the door, and outs last man standing wins. Outside of that, there isn't really any rules. Something that makes this different, besides the pods, is this cage is completely closed over the top, like the Hell in a Cell steel cage, and
Mm.
there's a platform, even with the ring. That is all metal, by the way. It is
Right.
like a proverbial jungle gym of
Right.
insanity.
I've seen Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. I know how this rolls.
Exactly. Actually, that's kind of not wrong. It's close, but kind of not wrong.
Bone saws
He's ready.
ready.
Shout out to the Macho Man before he went fully insane, and after he went
Mm.
some insane.
Just a little
So
insane.
there's been two
As a
versions.
treat.
Yeah, there's been 2 versions of the Hell, or not the Hell in a Cell. Goddamn it, but the Elimination Chamber. The 2002 to 2017 cage, which went 16 feet tall, 36 feet in diameter. It weighed like about 10 tons. It was heavy. They can only hold this match in certain arenas because of how heavy it was.
Mm.
And it has about 2 miles and about 5,400 kilograms of chains around it.
Mm.
And then now after 2017 and the current one has been made bigger. It's more square in shape and a little bit more intense. And the
Mm.
plexiglass, like holding things, have more of a slide door action as opposed to like a full like bubble door, I guess is the way to describe it.
Yeah. Yeah. I
That
think
being
I get what
said,
you're
that
saying.
those things have been destroyed multiple times in very brutal ways. So the first one was actually at a Survivor Series pay per view, which is in November, and it
Mm.
was one of the first matches for the new at the time World Heavyweight titles. So they had a lot of talent after the merger with WCW, and they wanted to add another top guy title, which kind of started this tradition of two top titles. And Triple H was the inaugural holder of it, and allegedly one of the creators of this ring, or of this style match. And Shawn Michaels was the first one to win it, and he beat Triple H, Booker T, Chris Jericho, Kane, and Rob Van Dam, which is a pretty star-studded cast. And that's how he became the second World Heavyweight Champion. That was the first loss after a couple of months of being Triple H's new title.
Mm.
At the sixth Elimination Chamber, which was No Way Out in 2008, that was the first pay-per-view that gave it the WrestleMania consequences. So everything before that was kind of like for a title or for like something else. It felt weird. It wasn't weird, but it was like kind of like clear. It's like this doesn't have any long-lasting effects. And the winner of that Elimination Chamber match was The Undertaker, and he won it to face Edge at WrestleMania 24, which is a bop of a match.
Wow, it
And
took him that long to add this?
yeah, well,
Huh.
yeah, so it started in 2002, and then at the sixth version of it is when it actually became a Mania
Right,
effect.
right.
And the only exception was in May of 2015 when they had it at its own thing kind of after WrestleMania, because they wanted to attempt to make that was the year they were trying to like reinvent the pay-per-view wheel a little bit,
Right.
and they had one before it called Fastlane, and it was like yeah, this is gonna work, and it's like a Fastlane to WrestleMania and stuff like that, and obviously it didn't hit. It was a one-off premium live event. Same with Great Balls of Fire. They literally had a pay-per-view that was called Great Balls of Fire.
Hmm.
And then at the for the 10th iteration of the Elimination Chamber, which was in 2010, that is when it went from the No Way Out pay-per-view to the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. It's like this is its night. And then in the good old year of 2018, that was the first time women's competed in this style match.
Hmm.
And so like we were talking about, 2018 was like a huge year of equality for women's wrestling. And then the first women to win was Alexa Bliss, who one of the top stars at the time, and she retained her title there, so she didn't lose it. And then this year it will be the 33rd and 34th Elimination Chamber matches. So it's getting pretty popular. They're catching up to a lot of the big pay-per-views or big pay-per-view style matches because they're holding two of them a year. So
Mm.
they need less time. So some pretty big stats and moments. Ironically enough, Chris Jericho has one of the best stat lines. He has one win for being in it 8 times, but he has 10 eliminations. Triple H, the creator of it, he is 4 of 6 for wins with 7 eliminations. So that's kind of where the scripted aspect seems like it takes place. The women haven't had a repeat winner yet, but Liv Morgan, going to be in this one, has 4 appearances. She's shown up 4 times in this match and hasn't won yet. And then the best stat line of all time, Shayna Baszler. She is 1 for 1 in the match. Competed once, won it. And she has 5 eliminations. There's 6 people in the match, including her. So she eliminated every single other person. Which is
That's actually wild.
crazy stats. So that's all my notes for this pay-per-view. Any questions?
All right. Well, here's a question I want to try and ask more commonly because you are a fan of this,
Yes.
and I guess I'm curious. Who are you rooting for here? What is your
Ooh.
ideal scenario in terms of like wins and losses? Not necessarily whole storyline. That's a little elaborate. It's
But
hard to
like,
predict that. But
who
like,
who would I personally like to see win this match? Like these matches is
yes.
oh, great question. All right, so I've been sold on Drew McIntyre from the beginning of his like main roster career, which was 2007 ish. Even after he took like a couple year hiatus and wrestled at other promotions. So fortunately, with lineups and stuff, he will be. It seems like he's going to win it, but he would, even if CM Punk was in it, and they'd probably make CM Punk seem like the winner. I would still be rooting for Drew overall.
Hmm.
I'd also I also wouldn't be mad if LA Knight won. Yeah, dude's dude's catching the fire in his hand and ready to hold it for a while. He deserves like a big title match at some point. He might be, but he might be getting a title match at Mania for like the U.S. title, someone more middle card. But he might be getting some. He's getting something at Mania,
Right.
and then Kevin Owens, who is one of those underrated workhorses of the wrestling world. He technically gave Steve Austin his final match, allegedly, at WrestleMania a couple years ago when Sami Zayn was fighting Johnny Knoxville. He was given Steve Austin, and he made Steve Austin, who hasn't legitimately wrestled in quite some time, look like $1 million. He was incredibly safe with him, and that's what you want to see like with him. So he deserves another huge title push, but he also seems to like his spot in like the semi limelight where he doesn't have to be the fighting champion. He doesn't have to be the guy like always there, but he's gonna put on great matches. On the women's side, obviously I'm a huge Becky Lynch fan. I'd like her to win. Um I'd also like to see Liv Morgan because of that long form storytelling, and then as like a wild card kind of thing, Tiffany Stratton.
Hmm.
It would be fun to see like everyone's Rhea Ripley's literal nickname is Mommy, Mami, because of Dom and Nick Mysterio, or Tom and Nick Mysterio, according to our Truth. But Tiffany Stratton's got this like Paris Hilton esque vibe, kind of. So it seems like that would be a fun dynamic to see them fight. And
Right.
then yeah, for like the other two matches, there's gonna be honestly the tag team title match. I'd like Finn Balor and Damian Priest to win because there isn't a lot of a rivalry built up with their current opponents. But I wouldn't be mad because they're also just so talented. And then Rhea Ripley over Nia Jax. I'm not a Nia Jax fan, and Rhea Ripley's holding the proverbial torch.
Hmm. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
I guess my other question is, as we're facing this idea of like this controversy between Rock, Cody, and Roman, I guess
Mm-hmm.
my question is like, in terms of like the integrity of the belt match, in terms of like, if they say it's going to be one thing, it's going to be one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is there a lot of history of like curveballs being thrown where it's like halfway through the match, oh shit, someone's running in,
Oh,
oh.
huge history of that, especially with
Uh,
Roman Reigns'
okay, I just
bloodline.
want to know the sandbox playing in here before I
Yeah,
jump.
with Roman Reigns' like current career or current arc and stuff as the tribal chief, a lot of his big matches have been interrupted by Solo Sikoa, Jimmy and Jay, somebody to interrupt it and help him skeeve out a way to win,
Hmm.
which is why I said earlier it feels like there's Civil War vibes happening because Seth Rollins was one of those people that was screwed over by the bloodline. Drew McIntyre was one of those people that was screwed over by the bloodline. Randy Orton, like,
Mm.
there's so many people that got screwed over by the bloodline that it feels big. Like, it feels like there is going to be a lot of interruptions, and that's what happened at WrestleMania last year. Like, Roman had help, which sucked because it was such a big match feel. It was on the lesser of the two nights. Saturday night last year, fantastic show. Sunday night, kind of a dud compared, but
Mm.
Finn Balor needing to get staples mid match, not his fault, and still competing, gushing blood. Um, but Roman getting help to win felt kind of scummy. It's I think Triple H has swerved it enough to be his I to make it more long term storytelling now. But Vince McMahon pretty much Cody was pretty hot last year at this
Mm.
time, and Vince McMahon made Roman Reigns win in a scummy fashion because he was rewriting the show at the beginning of the show,
Mm.
which he was very much known for, and it's like that made it a little bit scummy because if he won cleanly, it would have been one thing, but needing help to win at this hot moment, fortunately, Triple H was able to make that just a stepping stone for this upcoming match
Mm.
based off of vibes. But the Civil War vibes, it feels like that some people are going to be interrupting for Roman Reigns, and there's going to be some guest appearances to help Cody Rhodes out, interrupting that because Cody is the son of Dusty Rhodes, or one of the sons of Dusty Rhodes, who is one of the top back in the 70s when it was like wrestling was all different, like it was all regional area things as opposed to like big like countrywide deals. It was all
Mm.
like it's like Georgia, some of Tennessee, some of Florida, like kind of style.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. One of my well, one of my weirdly one of my favorite video game critics does in like the Pennsylvania area regional wrestling, and it
mhm.
as like a remnant of that
Yeah.
era of like, oh, it's all regional,
Oh yeah.
you know.
Yeah, there still is like a smaller independent regional scene, but it's not the main form of consuming wrestling media now.
Right.
But back
It's
when that
all
was
gone
yeah,
mainstream.
yeah, back when that was the thing, Cody's dad, Dusty, was one of the hottest talents in the South.
Mm.
Everyone loved him. He was the crowd favorite. And then when he went to WWE, he felt he was given kind of like a stupid gimmick. He was like the common man, the real American common man, son of a plumber, and would be wrestling in this black leotard with like yellow polka dots on it, and he seemed like one of those people that Vince tried to make a message out of, or Vince
Mm.
Senior, you guys think you're better than this, but he's also one of those people that took the gimmick and made it work. Another
Hmm.
like a modern day version of that is Chad Gable, who was given such like he was on the developmental thing. He's like part of the tag team American Alpha. Great tag team to like I am I guess amateur wrestling. The like one they show at the Olympics. That's amateur wrestling. Um, two very talented at those. He has had a Olympic appearance, and then his one of his first dud things was he was put in like gym shorts with a sweatband, and someone gave him the nickname Shorty G, and that was like Vince McMahon was like, "We're going with that." So he was Shorty G for a while, and he took chicken shit and made it into chicken like a chicken dinner because he was like, "All right, I'm like." He's got the underdog vibe, and then his current gimmick, which was is called the Alpha Academy, where he took another former tag team, like big tag team guy, kind of in like a weird, not tag team vibe, like nothing really going on with him, and he would interrupt matches by going like shoosh. He's a big shush guy, and he would do that, and people were like he seemed annoying, but he made that into what he is now, and he's one of the like most underrated wrestlers that people love. He puts on insane matches, and that's kind of like the vibes that Dusty Rhodes had. So, and because Dusty wrestled for other promotions, he has a lot of friends. Like Cody's has like a lot of his dad's friends in other promotions, and that are now in that spot considered legends. So they might also use that opportunity to make a legends moment or a Civil War moment of like all the people Roman wronged, stopping
Ooh,
Jimmy.
I dig
Jay,
that.
yeah, Jay, who was like exiled from the family, rushes in and stops Jimmy from interrupting. Seth Rollins comes in and kicks Solo out. Vin Diesel shows up to help to get the Rock out of the way.
Hmm.
So I'm glad I chose this year to start this series because of what seems to be like a wrestling booking masterclass that Triple H is putting on.
Right. It does feel like this feels like a culmination of both
Yeah,
characters, as it were.
yeah. As of right now, through like the rumor mills and all that stuff, it doesn't feel like the alleged matches that are gonna happen at Mania are
Mhm.
wasted. Like there's no like Gitchy celebrity match at least scheduled. They might have a whole another Snoop Dogg situation.
Hmm.
If the situation arises, Snoop will come to it. Um, but everything has story, and it's not. It doesn't seem like it's just like the 2 weeks before WrestleMania, which it felt like in the past sometimes. This is long form storytelling again, and that's what makes it great.
Right.
All right. Any final notes?
No, I think you've set us up pretty well for the upcoming event.
Yep, so excited. I'm actually unironically excited to wake up at 5 a.m. for it.
And I will watch it on Peacock later.
Yep, you have my Peacock, and your profile picture is oh God, I'm new at this.
Freddy
Freddy Fazbear.
Fazbear.
All right.
But yes, and when my dad needed to use it for Bill's game, he tried to use it, and I was just like, Dad, it's the bear that looks like a.
Yeah.
It's a funnier joke if you
You just watch
about
the
things like
movie.
this more.
Watch the movie, Miss.
You know,
You'll
it's
know.
on the yeah, it's on the.
Yep. All right.
Just watch it. It's not really your speed, but
Yeah. So
and
check
then I
us.
jump out the window of his hospital. Just ruin Penn Medicine's lacrosse season, truly,
Yeah.
because no one could play a game without thinking, hey, remember that guy died
Yeah.
platted on the field? Man,
That
that's a
was
real
rough.
bummer.
That
Yeah,
really bummed us out.
yeah. Poor Tony. Poor Tony's still doing therapy for that. He had really struggling. Christ. Thank you everyone for watching. I
Yep.
appreciate your views.
Yep. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening because this is on Spotify. Feel free to watch the
Oh
YouTube
yeah,
channel
yay!
and the for Kevin and Card Talk Football. That season just ended.
I'm going to start posting my streams of Darkest Dungeon. It's a game I've played over 200 hours of, but haven't ever gotten really far in because I get blowed up too often. But now I'm committing. I am
He's
getting to
committed.
that Darkest Dungeon.
It's a fun stream. You
Damn it.
should watch it on the Rat King XIV.
14. Roman numerals for
Yeah,
14.
that's why I went with XIV for on Twitch.
Yes. But also, it will be on the CastPod YouTube channel.
Hell yeah. So until then, we'll talk to you after a 5 a.m. pay per view.